You are listening to Hit Play, Not Pause, a feisty menopause podcast for active, performance-minded women. I am your host, Celine Yeager. Each week, I bring you advice from athletes, scientists, researchers, and other experts to help you feel and perform your best, no matter what your hormones are doing. This show is a production of Live Feisty Media. Hello, strong, feisty women. I hope you all are well. So, I have a firecracker of an episode for you this week. I had a chance to sit down with Marion Jones, which, to be honest, I had no idea how this conversation was going to go, especially since I wanted to talk about menopause, and that was something I really hadn't seen her talking about, and I'm never sure how much people want to talk about menopause, but boy, did she have stuff to say, and this conversation was a real treat. For those who are unfamiliar or who don't recall, Marion was an American track and field athlete who made headlines and became a household name in the year 2000, in the Summer Olympic Games by becoming the first woman to win 5 track and field medals at a single Olympics. And afterwards, she skyrocketed into celebrity status until she had a pretty cataclysmic fall from that public podium in 2007 when she admitted to using banned performance-enhancing drugs and lying about it to federal investigators. She made some pretty serious mistakes, her life exploded, and she ended up being sentenced to 6 months in prison. She returned her medals and was stripped of her results from that time. In the 20 years that have followed, Marion has been working to rebuild her life, focusing on mentorship and coaching. She has spoken about that experience very publicly, and her message ever since has been failure is not permanent and that we can all overcome even the greatest adversity that we find ourselves in. Or as she says pretty plainly, you don't have to get stuck in your mess, or you don't have to stay stuck in your mess. Anyway, Marion entered my radar recently, and that's how she got on the show, because as she is knocking on the door of turning 50 this October, she decided she wanted to challenge herself and she waded into the world of triathlon, pretty much teaching herself to really swim and bike. And it was just cool to watch it unfold on her Instagram. So I gave her a little Go Marion shout out in my Feisty 40 Plus newsletter as she was approaching her goal event, the Honolulu Triathlon, this past May. And she actually reached out to thank me. And being the journalist and podcaster that I am, I thought, I bet she has a perimenopause story in her, and I wonder if she'd be on the show. So I shot my shot and I asked, and she agreed. And holy shit, she has stuff to say about perimenopause. Lots and lots to say, which I am certain you'll enjoy. But before we get into it, I will say that after I gave her a shout out in my newsletter, I did get a fairly angry reply from a community member who I know and I really respect. And she felt disappointed that I was celebrating a former doper. And I sat with that for a moment, and I understood that it could 100% be jarring for some to see a celebratory post that didn't give a nod to the past. And I reached out to that community member, and we had a nice exchange about it all. But it all banged around in my head in the days that followed. And I listened to some podcasts where Marion talks about that time and how she has worked very hard to confront these failures and work towards a more positive future. And I thought about all the men I have known in the sport who have similar stories and have paid far less of a price. And honestly, I thought about myself. I thought about myself a lot. I did so much dumb shit in my 20s. I made so many mistakes. My moral compass was not developed fully in my 20s for sure. And I own that. I'm glad I didn't come up in social media or a more public time for a lot of it. I have dear friends who have made big mistakes, people I love who have made big mistakes. As a cyclist, I understand how angry we get when athletes we look up to and cheer on let us down, and when they've lied or cheated. I totally get it. But Marion has really paid for those mistakes, and she's going to be 50 this year. 50, 50. And at 56, that's my age, I'm 56, I can tell you I am a totally different human being than I was in my 20s. And that's growth. And that's what I believe that we're here for. And I also believe that we are on this planet to help each other. And I really, really, in all of my heart and being and every single cell, believe in forgiveness and redemption. I think that is what this life is all about. So, as I was preparing for this episode, all this has been banging in my head, and I do suspect that there will be people who are not happy with me for showcasing Marion this week on the show. And that's okay. I'm not here to tell anyone how they should or shouldn't be feeling about anything. You can't actually really control how you feel or don't feel about things. I'm just here to present a show that highlights all the challenges that we navigate, big and small, through midlife and through the menopause transition, and to share other people's stories about all of that stuff. And man, Marion has some to share. So I do hope that you enjoy this one as much as I did. Okay, before we get to it, as always, give us a follow at Feisty Menopause on Instagram and Facebook. Come on in and join our private Hip Pause Facebook group where we've got about 35,000 women in there helping each other out 24/7. Head into those show notes and sign up for that Feisty 40 plus newsletter. It's totally free. Just click on the link, sign up. It'll get into your inbox each week. There are more than 50,000 of you who have signed up, and that's amazing. So thank you. And with that, I have talked a whole lot here, so let's just have a few words about our awesome sponsors and get on with the show. All right, Marion, I am so excited to talk to you. Welcome to Hit Play Not Pause.
Yeah, thank you, Celine. I am a fan. Actually, one of my clients, I think when I connected with you and your people, one of my clients, she's a nutritionist, and she was like, "Celine, give you a shout out." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And so I did a little diving, and I was like, "Yeah, she's a badass. I want to talk to her." So I'm so glad that we figured it all out and made it happen.
I am very excited. So we have a ton to talk about because you have really been blossoming, it seems, in all kinds of ways in the past year or so. Lots of things percolating in your life, professionally and personally. Off the top, I have heard many podcasts and speaking engagements where you talk about failure isn't forever. You don't have to get stuck in your mess. I love the messages and the energy that you're putting out there. And I am not here to belabor the past. I'm not interested in that. However, and people can go and find out about your darkest days. There's places for that. But as you know, there are always people who will contend you should not give someone a platform, after they have had some kind of downfall in their life and for the mistakes you've made. And even after that shout out that I gave you, I heard a little pushback from a member who was disappointed, and I wondered, like, how will this be forever in Marion's life? Like, what does she need? What does she need to do? Like, how often do you still hear this, and how do you contend with it? Like, how do you
Yeah.
navigate it?
I actually, ironically, I don't hear it that often, because I I accept it all, right? And
Yeah.
and just to give a little background, I know that when you ask and pray for some who do that, like for a lot, you have to when things don't go how you want, you have to accept it all, right? So were there people disappointed in the decisions that I made when I was in my early 20s? I'm almost 50 now, and that in itself gives it some context, but sure, right? And did I let a lot of people down? Absolutely. Most importantly, myself and my family. Everybody else, okay, yes. And so no matter what I do or say, there will always be, and you learn that as we age, there's always going to be somebody out there who's going to hold on to something like I cross their past personally. And when I come across those people, occasionally, I simply will say, "Wow, it's so nice to talk to somebody who has never ever made a poor choice in their life." Right? Like, man, like I want to, can you sign something for me because you are one in a million? for you to be like the perfect specimen. Right now, did I make poor choices? Absolutely. Did I pay healthy consequences? Absolutely. And most
Don't even get me
I will,
started. That
I will
makes me
tell
so
you,
mad. Anyway,
I will tell you, Celine, right? Like if we opened up the book for the majority of humans in this life that have made poor choices that didn't have to have the entire world dissect them, right? Like we'd be talking forever. So to put a pretty bow on this, yes. There are people who are listening and seeing this are going to be like, well, I have nothing I have no interest in hearing anything she has to say. And I would say totally your opinion, but I do think that my journey, my story is unique. I do think that by people who hear about it all, they can learn from choices that I made, didn't make. And even now, when I am knocking on the door of 50 and I'm embracing a whole new world, trying to embrace a whole new world of crap that the universe thinks that women should have to deal with at this age.
we'll get there. Go
And,
ahead.
and like it's just a unique journey. So, like, hey, if you're not interested, there's so many wonderful podcasts out there. I can offer some up, including one of my own. But no, I'm just so happy, Celine, in the skin that I'm in, and want to just share with people the ups and downs of my life and kind of how to move forward when you blank up, when you make a poor choice, because nobody, even that individual or two or three that have some pushback about even you talking to me, in their darkest days, I bet they wish that people would just accept them for who they are. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just said this podcast is not about that, but like I have fucked up. I mean, I have made big mistakes in my life, and I'm so grateful for the universe that I have been able to move forward. And I believe in progress and forgiveness and redemption and all of those things
It
because why
grows.
else are we here? Why else are we here?
So if we don't embrace a growth type mindset, right? Then you stay stuck. And it's the saddest thing for me, Celine, when I find and meet people who are there. And you could tell very, very quickly, we have social media now, and you could just tell very quickly when people are stuck. They're not about embracing a mindset of growth and just embracing different people, different views. Come with different views, right? Let's all talk about it. But when people are like, nope, this is how I think, this is how I grew up, this is the way that I was taught, and that's the end of the story. Well, then that's when you get pushback. Just listen, all right? And you might learn something. People, I shared some content with a friend of mine who occasionally will help like craft some unique posts in my Instagram because I am, like I said, almost 50 and did not grow up with that stuff. So I do have a wonderful team that assists me, or one post might take me 24 hours.
I feel you.
But I was creating some content today. And the way that I have embraced this world of social media, which to be honest, if I could not have it, I would be okay with it. But looking on the other end of the spectrum as a business entrepreneur, we need it. It's awesome, right? Because I can touch so many more lives with a simple from the heart. And when I was kind of starting out on my social media journey, because all of it's a journey, I'm like, well, how do I want to like be to the world, right? Like I just am not. And me, and I had a friend who was much younger said, Marion, just be you, right? Be your authentic self, right? In all of its wonder and all of its chaos and sadness and I embrace that. And so today's what I shared with my friend was just be kind, right? Just be non-judgmental with people. Like if we just take a day where that is who we are, like so many people could be like, it could get to the next day, Celine, right? Because I find on social media, and it's why I don't troll the comments. Like when I post something, like I disappear from it, right?
Post and ghost.
And Celine, you have to do that because there's always going to be somebody that just wants to like tear you down. They're sitting in their dark room with their can of beer or whatever, And they're just like, you know what? I just hate my life and I want everybody else. And so the post today was just very simple. It's Thankful Thursday. I am
Mm.
also a trainer. I train people virtually, 2, 3, 4 times a week. And I have an early morning session on Thursday mornings. And I always hold on to this Thankful Thursday. And I'll ask my clients virtually in the chat. Let's say, y'all, it's Thankful Thursday. Tell me something small in your life. It doesn't have to be you woke up and you felt great to train or to work out. It could be something like, I live in a climate where I don't get a lot of rain, and yesterday we got some, and I'm happy and thankful for that. And so this morning, I've a sad story, and I'll bring this
Oh, your dog.
landing here, Celine. Yeah, my beloved pup for 10 plus years passed away earlier in the week, and like people are just so interesting. And a friend of mine screenshot a comment of my simple post, Celine, about my little pup just passing away and how grateful it was. And it's just something just rude and nasty. And it just prompted me this morning to say, people, like, do good. Just be good, be nice. Can we do it for one day? So that's just where I'm at. Just yeah.
Totally. Totally, man. I think people just forget that there's human beings behind all of this. And you are preaching to a very big choir in my heart with all of that. So let's talk a bit about where you're going in this journey now. I gave you a shout out in my newsletter because I saw, speaking of social media, I mean, that's the beauty of it. I'm like, hey, look at that. That's pretty cool. You were like doing your mini triathlon and you got into the at 49, you're going to be zero experience. What
Yeah.
inspired it?
you know, I have always had on my bucket list to train and compete in a tri.
Hmm.
I have so much respect for athletes that can juggle at an elite level, not only one discipline, but 4 or 5 compare to who you speak with in the triathlon world. 4 meaning nutrition, because that is a whole other beast in
So hard.
itself. And then 5 if you do it correctly and you have the proper strength training, right? And I found how challenging it was just to be elite in one discipline back in my day. And so over the years, like watching these athletes and saying like how do you give it the time that it needs and deserves? How do you balance that with life and family and career, and still excel? And so it always piqued my interest. And I always said, if in a perfect world I had a plethora of time, and who has that, right? To train, because I'm not going to do it unless I can dedicate the time that it deserves. And that I would do it. And so this year, opportunity came up with my business partner and the group that I work with to put together a team, right, of like-minded entrepreneurs who are going to use training for a try to enhance their business. Right. I was doing it for my own personal reasons, but we brought on some elite clients who had never done it before. There was one or two. Actually, the client who shared your newsletter with me, she's done it before and she's doing it again. She's the only one in the group really that had done anything with track. So we all hired a coach, or hired my own specialized coach, whom I didn't even know, Celine, when I was researching coaches, because I can't do this on my own, that she happened to be in Austin and she happened to be like an elite coach. Like she trains Ironman champions. She happens to be in Austin, right? Natasha Van de Moer. She's a South African born coach. But I said, all right, like I'm going to pour it all into it. And people are some surprised that it has been such a thing that as challenging for me, because most people see, oh, you're an elite athlete. Like you could do that you choose from physical, athletically. Not true, not true, not true. If you're a trainer or you've dealt with any type of movement, the first discipline, let's talk about the swim, which is a massive beast in and of its own. Did I know how to swim prior to October of 2024 when I started to train for it? Sure. The type of swim that, one, I'm not going to drown, like I can tread water. My kids are not going to drown. But in regards to If I ever swam one full lap in a pool, no. Right. And I made the decision that I was going to start with a sprint try. And for those of y'all that are listening to this, seeing this, you don't know what that is. It's a shorter distance. It's not an Ironman. It's not, an Olympic marathon distance. The distances typically are about 700 yards, open water swim. It's about a 13, 14, or 15-mile bike ride and a 5K. So it's a sprint for most people. But 700 yards, if you don't know how to do it, right, and you don't have any real background in regards to technique, right, it's not so much about cardiovascular health and how much health, right? No, it's about figuring out how you're not going to drown, which has been insane and is a process even now. So that was the part of the equation that I was the most concerned about. I would even go, Celine, to say at times fearful. Um, and I will just, touch on, I am not from a community, a culture, really, whereby when we're small, we learn to swim, right? It's better, but in the Black community, it's not a thing. So thankfully, my mom made sure that my brother and I kind of, learned. She got us some lessons, but it's not a thing, right? So that's the first discipline. We'll put that to the side. The second discipline was, of course, the bike. Um, did I know how to bike ride? Sure. Right. Did I know how to ride my Huffy around the block? Yes. And did I know how to ride with my kids a few times around it as well? Yes. But in regards, again, to like arrow position, traffic, right? Like I did, and I think you knew this. I did a 50-mile ride with my coach and some of her athletes earlier in the year. What? Insane. Talk about crotch pain from another universe. We're not gonna even get into that, but so that's that. That's the cycle portion. And let's talk about the run portion really quick, Celine, because I think most people think, oh, that's she has that in the bag. She's a runner. No, I'm not a runner. I was a sprinter. Selena, I could
Mm-hmm.
go very fast from here to there. But if you tell me I have to go there and there and there and do it again and again and again, you're talking massive mileage? No. Do I know how to train my clients in regards to endurance and races? Yes. But when I do it myself and you're dealing with an athlete who has grade 4 arthritis in both knees, I deal with it. It's just, it's years and years of pounding and pounding. And I've been told by my orthopedist that, hey, yeah, you are an excellent candidate for double knee replacement, but I'm 49, right? So, and I'm also have a massive high tolerance for pain. And I've learned that there are other ways to get around it. He was like, well, you shouldn't be running, Mary. And I was like, well, I'm either going to pay you or I'm going to pay my psychiatrist. And I'd rather pay you because movement is the only thing at this point that I know how to deal with my anxiety and my stress. And I know that there are a lot of other healthy ways, but this is what has gotten me through. And this is what I know. And it is what it is. And so at some point, me replacing it'll be in my future, but I'm holding that off. So, and then the nutrition part of it. Oh gosh, Celine. Oh my goodness. The nutrition part of this type of training is insane. The amount of protein that actually naturally as women need to be ingesting daily, but then you take it up to you're adding on a significant amount of training, 2-3 hours in a day. Like and I live in a state of Texas where you're dealing with heat. And then I've mentioned I'm 49, which brings its own challenges, and perimenopause, which we'll get into, which um is another beast in and of itself. That's the sixth friggin' discipline. An absolute advantage when it comes to if they're middle aged and they're training for something, they do not have to deal with this. They probably have their own other issues, but this one, trumps everything else. So the inspiration, right, to do it was one, I needed a challenge for myself. I'm very active, I'm physical, I'm fairly fit, but my brain and my body for about 4, 5, 6 years now hasn't been challenged, right? Like it's used to. And I found I was getting in a rut. Like I need a goal, right? Like I've done some 5Ks and those are fun. And I've put, with some clients, I did like a Spartan here or there. I was actually on a show, a Fox TV show earlier in the year called Special Forces, which challenged me, of course. But I needed a challenge. And I'm a believer, Celine, that mid-age 40 on, if you don't have something every year in your life that is going to get you out of your comfort zone, maybe it's something you have to train for. It doesn't have to be a triathlon. Whatever it is, learning to read music, right? Learning social media, learning chat GPT, like all of those. It doesn't always have to be physical. I think that the physical really, really helps, but every year setting a goal that you have to train for something and it's going to be uncomfortable and you have to learn how to balance life, right? Like if not, you get stuck. And as you know, I talk about that a lot with in my social media posts. Like we do not need to stay stuck. There are things in life that naturally happen, right? Like life and relationships and business failure and financial poor decisions and whatever it is, but you don't have to stay there. I think that's the difference between a lot of people. Like when things happen in life, you're like, well, that's just my life. And I'm just gonna wallow in it. And no. Right. If I did that, Celine, well, you wouldn't be talking to me, certainly. And so that was the inspiration behind it all, right? Not only did I need a challenge, but I also wanted to continue to inspire people whom have been knocked down in some type of capacity, whether they're admitting it or not. A lot of people are dealing with their inner demons and they know that they are struggling for whatever reason. And maybe just hearing my story, right? Like, wait, this very public figure had a very public fall. And wait, she's back and she's putting herself out there because think about it, right? Like former Olympic champion, right? Like just made poor choices, had some severe consequences, is putting herself back out there in the sporting world to naturally get all kinds of negative commentary. And people are like, why is she doing this? Is she taking this? Like, why would she do this to like all kinds of things? Why would she do that? Because there's somebody out there, Celine, that is sitting there that needs today in this moment a story of resilience, right? And I am not just talking the talk. Like it's one thing when you hear so many people and all these podcasts and people are just like, wah, 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 right? But when you actually see the host, people like getting out there in the community, like saying, I am training. I have 3 kids. I have one in college, I have a high schooler. I have a business and I'm knocking on 50 and this is how my body feels. And I'm dealing with perimenopause. But wait, I'm training 3 hours a day, right? 3 different disciplines that I'm uncomfortable with. And I'm competing in a competition in a few weeks or few months back now that is very public. And so if I fail, the world will see, right? If I succeed, the world will also see. So, to wrap that up, that's why I did it. I needed to prove to myself that I could still do hard things and survive. And I wanted to share with the people who have embraced this journey with me and supported me and all that. You can do it too. It doesn't need to be a triathlon, right? And you might not necessarily come in first, right? But you can choose something in your life that, even at whatever age you're at, that prove to yourself you can still push forward. So, Celine, all of that to say, like that's why I did it, and I'm grateful. Is it something that I see me continuing to do? I competed in the Honolulu Tri at the end of beginning of May, end of April.
Time's funny.
Yeah,
Somewhere in May 18th, maybe.
yeah, around then, and I did fairly well. I survived the swim.
You were in the top 10.
Yeah,
You were
top
third in your
10
age group.
my age group.
You won your age group, and you were placed third in that first mini, and then you won your age group in Honolulu, and you were
Yeah,
top 10 overall, which is rad. considering that you just got into this.
It's solid, and there are so many things that I know that I can improve on. So will I dabble in a few more this summer? Yes. A little quieter, a little more local. Yes, just because like I personally want to challenge myself. I'm swimming a lot now, a lot more now, so I'm being more and more comfortable in the water. That was a 750-yard swim. I would like to look into tapping on 1,000 yards in a swim, right? And feeling confident in it. It's very, very different to train and swim in a pool compared to open water.
I was going to ask you about that
Yeah,
because
it's the
it's
worst.
night and day. It is night and day. I actually hate training in a pool and I really love open water, but people freak the F out when they get out in open water a lot, because it's daunting. You look at that buoy and you're like, where am I going?
Barely see it.
People are hitting you, people are
And then
bumping into you.
that's the thing. That's the thing that when I did the first one, a smaller one, like there was panic that ensued because like nobody's hitting me in the water, right? Like when I'm swimming in my local pool, nobody's kicking me and can care less. And then the first try that I did, the smaller one, the water was a little on the murkier side,
Mm-hmm.
right? Hold on. Thankfully, we chose the Honolulu try, and the lagoon that we swam in, Celine, was beautiful. So at least when you look down, it when you could see and stuff. But yeah, I can do better in the swim. I could do better in all the disciplines. I so excited to be done with the swim and off of the bike that threw on my running shoes and sprinted out of that transition area like somebody had stolen my mama's purse, which is the wrong thing to do. I left Natasha, my coach, was like, wow, Marion, like when you left the transition area, like I was like, what? Like, okay, Marion Jones. But then when you came into the finish line, you were quite humbled, which is right. So, I am intrigued by the sport. I do not know if it's something that I'm going to embrace. I would have loved to say that I want to try my hand in an Ironman. I do not see, like, I have no desire to run a marathon, period, let alone Celine. That's only one of the three disciplines.
Oh, I've done them. I know.
I don't see right now in my space where I have the time to be on a bike training for 3, 4, 5 hours a day in a workout. And again, as I shared earlier, if I am not all in, I'm not going to do it. So
Yeah, I fully appreciate that. While you were talking about swimming, I wanted to just give a little tangent there because I really appreciated a post that you did about swim caps because it's something I think about a lot. We have these conversations about we need more diversity, and then we don't have bike helmets or swim caps that fit black hair.
or
So
even, I mean, yeah, we can go there and I will, but even like certain body types, right? Like, okay, I love the sport of triathlon and swimming, but it's not one body type fits all, right? Some of my clients, some of my teammates that I brought along on this journey were very like heavy busted women, and they needed to wear under their tri kit I think one of my friends, she had 3 or 4 sports bras on, right? Like, come on, you talk about inclusivity, right? And yeah, the hair situation was an interesting one. When I first started, like my coach, she had given me like a little, she's like, wear this. I was like, first of all of this hair is not getting under there, right? So there has to be other options. She was like, yeah, there's a small, medium, even the large. And I mean, my hair is not super long, it's thick. And then I started to do a little research. I was like, so you're excluding, right? And I'm not going to go as far as to say purposefully or any of that, but you just naturally are an entire population of people. And it's not just like Black men and women. Like, there are a lot of culture. Like, you got a whole lot of hair on your head, Celine, right? And to wrap all that, and get that in a swim cap. It's just not right. So thankfully, in one of my posts, when it was absolutely authentic, like I was frustrated, I'm frustrated with my swim technique and my cycling. And the last thing I want to have to be frustrated is something that's like this, but I couldn't find anything. And somebody recommended Soul Cap, which is a small UK based company in obviously in Europe, and they connected with me, and boom, right? Like it's amazing the small things when you just put it out there and you say, like, this ain't right. They'll help me out. So I've just been very fortunate to have some of those connections. But yeah, it's just a thing. It's a thing, and I'm like little things, Celine, and like we shouldn't even go there, but like the shape of my body, like we all as women particularly, we all look at ourselves and are judgmental, right? Like I'm like my long torso, like my glutes and my hamstring, like, and I couldn't find something that just fit everything like it should. Like when I don't do a flip turn, right? Because I joke and I say, if you're over 49, you don't do flip turns, you tap and go. But like even when I tap and go in my pool, I'm conscious naturally of like my bottom area. And to have certain swimsuits that are cut a certain way, I'm like, I don't know these individuals who are walking by the pool. Why do they get a free show? So, oh, it's just been an incredible journey, and one that has just opened up my eyes, and just like I love the challenge. I love the challenge of um like walking into a pool. Let me tell you one, and then I know we should move on. But like walking into a pool area, Celine, and um, generally I don't see people who look like me, right? Like there are no women of color generally in any pool that I go to. So seeing people's reaction to someone like me, whether they know who I am or not, I always assume that people don't, and I like the surprise that when they do. But walking in and just people's reaction, like you don't, this is weird. Like, this is odd. Like, this is not a situation that I see. And then they see me in the pool and they see me training and that I could actually swim, and the tone changes. Like, I love to be like part of that genre or group of people that are breaking stereotypes. Everybody should have access to learning how to swim, and should be okay, whoever, right? Like they're trying to live a happier, healthier life. Let them be. So, oh,
Amen.
we could go on and on, Celine, about all that, but I know we got other things we should chat about.
So you alluded to the perimenopause thing, which is why I started the show, as I shared with you in our pre-recording conversations that, I was a mountain bike racer, and all of a sudden I was like, what's happening? I hit like sort of your age, 48, 49, and anxiety and body changes and power changes and all this stuff. And I thought I had been a health and fitness and science writer for 27 years at that point, and there was so much I didn't know, so that I just wanted to open these conversations because there'd been so much, shh, you don't talk about that, and I'm like, this is craziness.
Yeah.
Craziness. So what have you been experiencing?
Oh gosh. It has been like a massive slap in the face. Let me explain to you like why. You think that, well, in my case, you think that the hardest time of your life is in the past, right? Like with experiences and consequences and things like that. And you resign to the fact that at least I always have my health and my fitness and like discipline and all those type of things. And then perimenopause hit me, I would say now for a year and a half. And it didn't care about any of that. It didn't care about how fit you are or how successful you are. It didn't care about, consequences you've paid in the past or who you were. It's like, no, right? Like this is something that's happening to your body. And yeah, so it has been not a fan of it, to say the least. Like I experienced hot flashes nonstop. Um, uh, poor sleep, um, constant soreness. I don't know, not too many mood shifts or change with me, but hey, I'm sure that that's in the next phase. But I've also come to it, Celine, from a perspective that is, I think, even talked about even less. And that is, I am from, again, I go back to, it's a cultural thing for me, whereby in the culture that I grew up in, one, uh, generally it's taboo to talk about what you're dealing with, right? The term dirty laundry, right? Like one, like growing up, I've never heard the term like mental health awareness, right? Like it wasn't a thing, right? And if you were struggling with something in that regard, you better not tell anybody about it outside of your immediate family, even if then, right? Because, and understandably why, for so many decades and centuries, if people in my culture were to say something, there could be consequences that were severe, if not deadly. So ingrained in the culture is you keep quiet when you're struggling with something, right? So I am coming from it from that point of view. And then you add on, Celine, that is a former athlete who was taught and coached, you deal with your stuff, like you deal with discomfort. When I was training, was there always some type of pain? Sure, right? The less successful athletes, the more successful athletes, you don't even know that they're dealing with stuff. They just figure it out. The Kobe's, the LeBrons, the Michaels, right? And Serena's, whoever. They're great, not because they never experienced any injury or pain or depression, right? They're great in the eyes of the world because they don't talk about it, right? Like they just perform. So you have two things that I come to the equation with, right? Like a cultural thing whereby it's kind of, even though I'm older now and the times are shifting slightly when it comes to what menopause is and how to deal with it and all that, it's still ingrained in me that very cautious about that. And then two, I'm this thing where it's grit, it's strength. I'm an athlete and nobody needs to know. And so I struggle. Period. Celine, and I'm putting it out there and I've shared it on my social media. Like I struggle with coming to grips with saying that I don't have this figured out. And yeah, tomorrow is like unknown when it comes to it. I've done some research on like my options, right? And there's so many like hormonal things happening, but again, I just so cautious, right? Of to not be caught in a fad, right? And I know that there are some there's so much research with hormone therapy and things like that, but I just like cautious, like, oh, I can deal with this, I can muscle through it. And then I have friends who are older, Celine, and they're like, we've been dealing with it for 10, 12 years. I'm like, no, say it ain't so. Say it ain't so. So, Celine, all of that to say is I do not have a handle on it. I am struggling with it. I have embraced that it's nothing that I did to myself, right? Because that also needs to be said, screamed, shouted to the world, right? Like women experience this not because of something they did, right? And just by the fact that they're women, they should be celebrated because they're dealing with stuff that most people, when you walk in the post office, in the grocery store, they are dealing with it, especially if they're middle aged. And generally, they're quiet about it, right? Because generally you don't want to ruffle feathers in the house, right? Like the husband, he doesn't really understand. So we're not going to really tell him how much I'm struggling with, right? But we are not okay, right? Generally, we can be, right? With research and with dialogue, and realizing that everybody's a little bit different. Just because you have success with a certain type of therapy doesn't mean, right, that it's for everybody. And for those that choose not to go down that road, it's also okay. And it's also okay to say, I am still your sister fighting with you, even though we have a different approach to this. And I think what happens, Celine, is that there becomes this divide
Yep.
in this
Oh, I'm in it.
community, right? Whereby if
Yes,
you are not on one side of the equation, we are against you,
I can't take it.
right? Which then lessens it for everybody, right? As opposed to saying it's a thing. It's a massive thing that are negatively affecting the lives of the most powerful human on this planet. And in my opinion, not even arguably, women are the essence of this world, right? And for us to have to deal with things and there's no massive backing on how to make it better and how to make women's lives better with something so natural, to me is mind blowing. And so I have so much respect, Celine, for folks like you who are making this a thing. People need to hear about it, right? You're dialoguing about it, right? We need answers. We need to come together. So all of these things, I touched on so many different things, Celine, just now. But like at the end of it, I'm not okay. I'm trying to figure it all out in however I can with all of the wonderful factors involved in who makes up Marion Jones. But yeah, it's a tough road. I will be 50 in a few months. And what have I learned? I've learned that there are certain colors that I cannot wear on a daily basis because I do not know if the sweat is going to soak through. Right? Who would have known that when I'm picking out my wardrobe in the morning, Celine, like that has to be a factor, or that I need to pack almost like a second pair of clothes when you go someplace. Right? So Celine, talk to me. What are your thoughts about all of that?
Oh, Marion, I'm so grateful for you. I mean, like, honestly, that's my biggest thought. As you were talking, I will be straight up honest with you. When I approached you, I'm like, I wonder if she's going to talk about it or want to talk about it
Yeah.
for all of those reasons that you talked about. And I really wanted you to, and I thought, I think if but I didn't expect you to just come on out and just like, and I'm so grateful that you
It's
did.
such a real thing. It's such a real thing that is it's not Hollywood. And let me explain when I say that, right? Like it's a thing right now. It's a Hollywood thing, right?
Yes,
Because celebrities are talking about it. Like, the Halle Berrys, and I have nothing against Halle Berry,
totally.
like of the world have made it a thing. So now it's a thing. No, right? It's not just a thing because an elite 1% of the population is talking about it. Like, how can we get down to the nitty gritty about it? How can we research ways to help women deal with this? Whether you start it in your 30s, right? Or your 50s, it does not matter what color you look like, what country you're from, what business or career you do. It does not help us by creating real dialogue that's other than the 1%. When I go into my doctor about a few years ago, and I started to share the first thing here, it's an interesting story. The first thing that I was asked by my female doctor is, what's your stress like? Right? Like, and I hear that from a lot of my clients, like when they share this stuff, it must be the anxiety and stress. Like, yeah, I know perimenopause and we can test for all that, but tell me about your stress. Cause that's usually what's, why you're starting. And I'm like, is that what we're going? Is that how we support like women now? Like you just turn to that. Could it be some, yes, but it's not all encompassing. All right. And when you pull out one thing, you make me feel like maybe it's just me then. Right? Like maybe, but that's what they do when you have these
I know.
professionals, and and for reasons I understand, right? Like they don't even know. Right, they know, but they don't know. And if there were courses and studies and that they should have taken more of and they didn't because it's maybe not as profitable, I don't know what it is. It's just a very frustrating time in my life, and you don't feel fully supported.
Well, that we could talk all day about
Yeah.
this, but the biggest issue has been, Marion, is that women have been understudied forever, period.
Yeah.
Right? Like My mother had a massive heart attack because they put her on tranquilizers because she was just stressed when she was having what was obviously heart problems.
Yeah.
So we there's a lot to overcome. I think the boat is finally moving in the
Yeah.
correct direction. So I take some solace in that. And because I agree that there's this 1% conversation that is happening, and sometimes I get very concerned that you have to have a certain amount of means to go through this transition,
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and that I keenly am sensitive to that.
Mhm.
The upside of that higher level conversation is it is permeating and people realize, oh, look, there are all these women going through this and there's money to be made in
Yeah.
general. So I mean it just drives things. But all of your frustration is why we are here.
Yeah.
I very, very much appreciate you expressing all that. And you are on the right path in that you have your eyes open and your ears open and you're investigating and doing
Yeah.
really listening to your gut into what is right for you. And I think I am not here to give advice, prescriptive advice per se.
Mhm.
The only thing that I like to leave people who are in where you are with is that there are it's not an all or nothing kind of thing. So if you were to decide, maybe I will try a hormonal route, you can try it for 3 months and stop. You can, I mean, it's just, I think we get stuck in like, well, if I go down this road, am I on it forever? I mean, I hear that a lot. Do I have to take this forever? What if I want to? And it's not that binary,
Yeah.
And I think that if we
That's
turn down the anxiety on the conversation a little bit
mhm.
and don't think in those terms of what does this mean for the next 50 years, it becomes a little easier to be like, okay, I'll try this thing on this low dose for a few months and just see how I feel.
That is great. It's a great reminder. It's a great reminder, especially, when you you are referring to women who are um, forward movers. When I say that, like women who are like what's the word I'm looking, very driven, right? And we want to see immediate gratification. Like if we make a change, there needs to be, right? So it is a wonderful reminder, even for those of us that are driven and not so much, that it doesn't have to be forever, right? Because some
Yeah.
of us get locked in, like, okay, if I make this choice, it is a commitment for life. It's like a wedding ring, right? And the reminder that it doesn't have to be if it's not working, right? Or if you want to try something and you totally can. So that is great to put that out there.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think that that is when you because I had to do that reframing myself, quite frankly. I'm talking from a place of experience and I live and breathe this stuff, my God, 24/7 for 5 years. And it took me a while to get to that place where I'm like, okay, let's sit down with this. Like
Yeah.
what, none of this is all or nothing. This does not have to be this giant binary decision.
Yeah.
And it can take some trial and error and it is just a matter of like just looking at it like that. Like,
Mhm.
okay, this is what I hope to accomplish. Here are some steps I can take. Let's see how they work. And if they don't,
Yeah.
we'll go another direction.
Yeah. That's good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Celine. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And again, thank you. I really do very much appreciate you because these conversations, and I know it because I hear it all the time, they make a huge difference in people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah, and I learned that even though I'd say anti social media, if I had to choose, I understand the reason for it and all that. But if there's any positive that has come out of all of it for me, is that it gives a voice to the voiceless, right? Like it gives people whom do not have a platform, right? To have a platform
Yeah.
and to be heard and to be seen and to hear things that affect them. So I am in that regard grateful for it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Me
mhm,
too. I feel very similarly to you. Sometimes I want to just throw it all into the ocean. I'm like,
right.
there goes the laptop. There goes the phone. See you
Yeah,
later.
like,
I'm
hey,
going.
give me a pen and paper and a stamp.
Yeah.
Right? Like
But
I am in the group of adults who know how to
me
cursive
too.
write, right? Like I can make it look pretty. You don't need to text or message me through, like, it's a fun quick story. My daughter, who is turning 16 on Saturday, she was talking with another adult friend of mine, and she was saying that kids, they don't even exchange phone numbers anymore. right? With the Snapchat and the Instagram, like you don't even need to know somebody's phone number. And I was thinking to myself, my how times have changed where we needed to know everybody's address. And we better not. I remember my mom told me that I could not, if I was writing a letter to a friend, you had to write the head of the household name. So I had to know my friend's parents' name, Mr. and Mrs. such and such, care of my friend, and
That's
then
right.
the address. What?
Wow. Times have really changed.
Yesterday, she says, like a letter, why do they charge for a stamp to send? Like, she's so like, it's free to be able, which she don't realize it's not free. Like her mom and daddy are paying for it. But like, if I wanted to send a letter, like I have to pay for a stamp. I was like, there's a post office, there's postal workers, they need to be paid.
They're literally walking the street delivering that.
Oh yeah. But
So you alluded you're knocking on the door of your 50th birthday. I am curious, especially with the knees and the things that are going on with perimenopause, what are you doing to support the recovery now that you're sort of in this world of, you know, doing these 3, 4 sports, if you include strength training and all of that?
well, I am grateful to have, a coach in my world that understands the necessary recovery needed when you take on something like this. And so the programming is important.
Yeah.
And being on a plan that allows your body time to recover from hard workouts. But I am old school, and I know that people hearing this, there's so many different ways now, but I'm an ice bath type of gal, right? And I know I follow some amazing women, and people on social media who are like anti ice bath, and especially if you're women, a woman. Okay, it has worked for me, right?
That's all that matters.
Right, that's all that matters. So I'm an ice bath type of gal. I have one in my backyard. I love it. Massage. I do acupuncture. I mainly got into the acupuncture for a while. A good friend of mine and a client, she recommended because I struggle with sleep, and of course the night sweats. And so I've been playing around with some acupuncture, and that has helped some, in regards to, but really increasing my mobility as I get older has been massive for me. Um, one of the one of the arrows that have been hard for me is that as a former sprinter, naturally, I was born with these fast twitch fibers that are a bit shorter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And if I do not, as I get older, continue to make sure that I'm stretching and focusing on my mobility, and of course my strength training, I can really see where that could be a downhill, you know, full speed downhill. And so, over the past few years, that has been something that I've really embraced, that has helped. So, yeah,
Do you do a yoga practice or more of just a stretching
it's
or a
the
mobility?
yoga for me is actually because I'm so like not flexible.
Totally get it.
I when I and I do occasionally, but it is like a competition for me.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
I'm
right? It's,
similar.
some people, Celine, when they go to yoga, they're like, "Oh, it's so relaxing." For me, it is painful, and I hate the fact that I have a 70-year-old woman right next to me who can do all of this downward whatever, and I am grimacing with every movement. Right? So, I love the idea of yoga, but it doesn't fit into my space. Like it's not for me, it's
I'm down. I
what it
understand.
intended to be. But I have played with Pilates and I like that. But yeah, I'm just kind of a work in motion, but the mobility for me is everything. All right. If I am traveling or if I don't get my time to just loosen things up, whatever my routine is on a daily basis, I absolutely will feel it when I wake up the next morning. Um,
I've taken to doing, and I started just doing it. I found it by accident, really, but through the show and then through some of the programs I did when I started to do longer distance runs again. Cars, the controlled
mm,
articular rotation, sort of like
yeah.
they're it's so simple, but
Yeah.
I have found it really effective.
And I think, well, based off of the feedback from my clients, I mean, it needs to be its own discipline. It needs to be its
Yeah.
own thing, right? Like, even in my virtual training, it's just we're so limited on time, and people think they okay with the mobility. Let's get through it really quick for 5 minutes or whatever. And I want to say that, like, you need this 45-minute workout or this 60-minute workout. Really, you need 30 minutes at least, half of it, right? Especially if you're slightly older in age, but people want that, hop straight into it. And I get it. That's what they want. They're paying for it. Okay. But I'm going to tell you, right, as your trainer, that you need to be doing this. If you're not doing it with me, right, and I get it, you want me to
Right.
do exercises and okay, I can do that. But if you're not doing it with me, you better be doing it, right? You better be doing it.
Yeah, it's funny story this morning. I told you I did sprint intervals in preparation for the show because I wanted to get all psyched. But there was an older gentleman, and I thought he had lost something under his car, and I almost went over to talk to him, and then I'm like, oh no, he's just doing mobility. Like he was bent over and sort of swaying. I'm like, is that guy okay? And I was
And
like,
it's
oh.
funny because you look at it, you're like, wait, not enough people do it. So when we do see somebody doing it, we're like, are you okay? Are you okay? You need help?
Can I help you?
Yeah.
All right, so I don't want to leave this conversation without talking a little bit about you have a new podcast called Second
Yeah.
Wind. Talk a little
Yes.
bit about that.
Let me tell you, it's just I am so fortunate that things have aligned in my life, that I've prayed about, that I thought about, that people in my village, my community has supported me with. So I love understanding and dissecting and diving into the life of people, how people are made up, their background, and particularly when it comes to something near and dear to my heart, which is like coming back from something. Um, and so many people need to hear it. And so when this idea came about of a podcast with my business partner, Suzanne Evans, and we started to think about it, this idea, like, I want to talk with people, and they don't necessarily have to be celebrities. In our first season, which we're done filming for season one, which is great, we brought in some celebrities that people would know. But it doesn't need to be that. Like, I am a people lover. I love people's stories. And I want to know, oh, like, how are you able to get to this moment? Anyways, the podcast is called Second Wind, and it's just a play on words. Like, these are people whom I've met, who I know, that are on their second wind in this life. Like, something has happened to them in maybe the earlier part of their life, and they got knocked down for whatever reason, or things didn't go well with their career or relationship, but they have found a way how to spin it and to come back from that, how they've spun it, what the thing was, and where they are right now. Just loving it. I'm loving the nuances, Celine, behind it all. Like, like the technical aspect of it, how important lighting and sound, and how that it resonates with the listeners and the viewers. And I'm excited about season 2. You can find the first season of Second Wind wherever you find your podcast. And I'm just excited to see where it goes. Like, I love talking to people, period, about their stories. And I think that more of the world needs to hear people's comeback type stories. People need to hear it. And I think that I have a way about it of really getting it out of people in a different type of way. Like, I'm not just going to be like, here's the question, here's the answer, right? Like, I love to interweave my own experiences and connect. And I'm just a people lover, right? Like, I am it's not even about enthusiasm. I just have a passion to hear people's stories and to share them, to share my own, yes, but even beyond that, to share others. So that's called Second Wind. And yeah, people can find it wherever they hear their podcast.
Well, I am so grateful that you came here to share your own story because I love talking to people too, and it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I'm excited to see where you go with all of it.
Yeah, Celine. Well, you are doing some amazing things. And I encourage you just to Keep your eyes on the prize, right? But no, focus on you and the people whom you inspire, and just continue to do what you do because you never know, right? You never know who you'll meet. Who constantly I haven't got a chance to meet you, and vice versa.
Life is awesome.
I love this universe, and yeah, I look forward to talking with you, Celine. I do have some questions and things that I would love to connect with you about what we chatted about. And I wish you all the best.
Well, that's our show. Come on back next week when I sit down with longtime Feisty community member, nutrition and endurance coach for 40 plus females, and all around triathlete badass, Jen Temperley of Fly Health and Wellness. Jen has a pretty important story to tell about how sometimes we may think something is a perimenopausal or menopausal symptom and it actually isn't, and you can get into some muddy waters, if not make things worse when you're treating one thing when it's actually another. So, as we learn each and every week on this show, it's a tale about how we need to be real advocates for our own health and well being. And she has a lot of good advice in both of those respects. So, come on back for that one. And until then, as always, stay feisty. You've been listening to Hit Play, Not Pause, a feisty menopause podcast for active, performance-minded women. I'm your host, Celine Yeager. The show is edited and produced by the strong, talented, and amazing women at Live Feisty Media. Follow us on social media at Feisty Menopause, and please help us spread the word. Screenshot and share this episode on your social media channels with the tag @FeistyMenopause. Share the show with your friends, and please subscribe, like, review, and rate this show wherever you get your podcasts. Word of mouth and good reviews make it easier for other listeners to find. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay feisty.